Life is so busy. If you blink, you can miss something amazing. It's important to take a moment and enjoy what we have and the people around us. I'm Mo Hagan, Chief Operating Officer for CanFit Pro, and welcome to A Moment with Mo, a podcast where I will welcome some incredible guests to talk fitness and nutrition, mindset and self empowerment, setting our goals into action, and much, much more. Now let's get chatting. Hello, everyone. I'm Mo Hagan, and I'm your host for A Moment with Mo. And I'll be helping us dive deep into conversations, thought provoking discussions around health and wellness, personal and professional growth. My mission is to inspire positive change by helping people move forward in their true purpose in life. And, I've been on this journey my entire career. However, it was about a decade ago, I worked with a coach. And during this process, I really had the opportunity to reflect deeply on my career and my life. And it was during this transformational exercise that I was able to discover my why, the deeper purpose behind what I do. And it was so rewarding, and it has been ever since because every day I now wake up knowing exactly why I exist. I have a clear sense of purpose, and I'm very, very committed, in fact, driven to help others to discover and uncover their why and to live authentically with their true purpose. And that helps us all strive to accomplish great things in this world and align our ikigai, that is our purpose, with our actions. And this clarity, of course, fuels passion. And that's a bit of a formula. When you have your why and you then put the fuel into it, that just sparks the passion. And the result of that is the drive that we have. Now, there are things that we need to do to ensure that our passion continues to be fueled. And we're going to talk about that today. But it's really about, being your authentic self, leading the world the way that you desire to do. So when you do, not only you feel fulfilled, but the path appears, it presents itself. I always say when you know why, the way appears. And this is a really powerful exercise for all of you because we're all on a journey. And now I'm excited to say I'm entering the fourth decade of my career in the fitness industry. And 2025 by its number alone is powerful. And it truly is promises to be next level. And this year, I really committed myself to uncover a renewed sense of energy and growth, and also really fully embracing the leader and the woman and person that I'm meant to become. And here's where I want to share a little bit of a platform that will help us introduce today's guest. During an exercise that I embarked upon as I was creating my 2025 guidebook, that is now available to all of you on my website at mohagan.com, I came across a dear friend's work, Erin King. Erin King, best-selling author, keynote speaker, and one of the world's leading experts on personal energy management, never fails to inspire me. And it was her end of year message that really did spark something within how I was looking at and deciding how I was going to manage my energy this year, learning some of the strategies from Erin. And so over the past year, and Erin's going to share more of this with us because she is our guest today. Erin embarked upon a study with her team of PhD researchers and published the world's largest scientific study on personal human energy management. And this helps to uncover individuals with both high energy and high life satisfaction and how they can sustain long-term vitality. And her powerful declaration that energy is your edge resonated so deeply with me that I took her free online energy exam, which revealed my unique energy type and the science behind it. And I was so fascinated by her findings that I did integrate them into the guidebook that I mentioned. And this guidebook is my sort of passbook, guidebook, and path forward for elevating 2025, really focusing on energy, growth, and becoming more. So, as I said, it is available. You can download it, and I hope that it will help guide you on your mission this year. And without further ado, please welcome my guest for today for this special episode, A Moment with Mo, Erin King.
Hi, Mo. How are you?
I am absolutely fantastic. I have waited for this special day. I'm wearing my power color pink because you are kind of a big deal, my friend. Not only is that the title of one of my favorite books,
Oh, you're so cute.
but you are kind of a big deal. And I am so grateful that you've made the time to join me for this episode, A Moment with Mo.
Well, thank you so much for the kind invitation. Thank you for that beautifully generous introduction. And right back at you, Mo. I will never forget, speaking of energy, when I first met you through our mutual friend, Petra Kolber. I believe we were at the International Spa Association or one of these conventions or conferences. And the minute that I met you, it was like a magnet. I was just drawn to just the vitality that you exude. So thank you for the kind words, but right back at you, sister.
Ah, thank you. And I love that analogy of a magnet. I really do find that we attract people that help support our mission, but also help to level up our authenticity, but also validate why we are here. And you are such an example of that. And you mentioned we met at a conference. I can't say enough about the magic that happens at conventions when you go to learn, but you go and you meet people that will forever change your life in so many ways. And you are absolutely one of those. And I know some of my viewers and listeners today will hear Erin King, see you, hear your voice, and go, I met you at CanFit Pro Global because you also came to one of our conventions.
That's right. Oh my goodness, what an incredible community. Talk about energy. I mean, I get hired to speak at accounting conferences and insurance conferences and software. So going to CanFit Pro and being so blessed to spend that time with your community, it was a treat because it was a two-way energy exchange where typically I have to be the generator and I'm kind of solo cholo up there with trying to get the low vibe up, but not at CanFit Pro. It was energy for everyone. It was beautiful.
Oh, I love that energy for everyone.
Yep.
Well, that's a great segue. Everyone, if you have not yet met this incredible energizer, Erin King, I'm going to just share more of Erin's bio with you all, and then we'll dive into conversations that will be very deep, thought provoking, and also resourceful for all of you as we do embark on what has been set up to be a very energetic, that's going to be my word, year already. So, Erin, as mentioned, is regarded as the world's leading energy expert. And after a serious health scare, three-time entrepreneur, I've met you in at least your second entrepreneurial journey on this planet.
Yeah.
Erin put her life on pause and spent a full year conducting the world's largest study on personal human energy management alongside a team of winning PhD researchers. Success Magazine named her one of the top 10 must see motivational speakers of 2024, along with Mel Robbins and Jay Shetty. And as the creator of the Energy Exam, the world's first scientific assessment for personal human energy, Erin has been hired by Google, Disney, the Academy Awards, Visa, Adobe, and even the United States Navy to unlock what she calls their big energy. Erin has delivered standing ovation keynotes from Bali to Amsterdam and everywhere in between, and has been featured in Forbes along with other global publications. And her podcast, one of my favorite, On Your Own Terms with Erin King, consistently ranks in the top 1% of all downloads on iTunes. So, whew, that is an accomplishment, and you are so young and have still so much to share with us. I tell
Stop
you.
it, Mo. I mean, of everything you just said, calling me young was the best part. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. You are welcome. Well, when you
I
have
can't
energy, you are young, right?
well, and yeah, and it's funny, speaking about age is good segue. I'm preempting the first question that I know you were gonna ask me about what was the most surprising part of my study. So I'm hijacking your question and just jumping
Go
in. Is
right
that
ahead.
okay? Because the segue was too perfect. So what's interesting, Mo, is that the most surprising part of the entire research experience, which by the way, we talked to 10,000 people from all over the United States, ages 16 to 64. And we are talking all different ages, demographics, socioeconomic backgrounds, junior in their profession, a little more senior, all different regions, races, mindsets, political affiliations. And what we found was fascinating. It turns out that although we talk a lot about generational differences, right? Boomers want to talk on the phone, Gen Z wants to text you an emoji, if that is true, what's interesting is that when it comes to our energy, so what really motivates us and energizes us, so things like trying new things or talking about our feelings or staying in touch with nature, all these different sources that we get for our energy. What was interesting is when we looked at all 10,000 people, as they reported how their energy is high, low, their habits, their how they manage it, what drains them, what charges them, what we found is when we looked at all the data and broke it down by generation, so age groups, what we found was across all these different categories, there actually wasn't that big of a difference between the different ages. The only category there was a big difference was talking about emotions and feelings. The boomers were very low on that, and Gen Z was very high in that category. But other than that, they weren't really that different. Now, when we took that the same study, the same people, and we resorted it by just their energy type, these 5 types of energy we discovered, the differences were tremendous. Huge gaps and oscillations between how people are energized. And so the headline here is that we actually proved that you are not your age, you're your energy. The way that you are energetically programmed at a DNA level matters so much more to how you see the world, what gets you psyched, what gets you going. It has so much more to do with how your energy works, your energetic insights, your energetic essence, than how old you are. And we've all seen this, right? I mean, my father in law is 86 years old. He is a power user on Yelp. He's on all the social media channels. He downloads apps. He plans everything online. My parents, God love them, they're 10, 15 years younger. They can barely email, right? And then we've all met someone in their 20s that feels like they're tired, like a 90-year-old. And we've all met 90-year-olds that are sparkly and having a little sneaky whiskey and have their cheeky little way. So I think it's a really beautiful finding. It was really surprising for us to discover that when people say age is a number, well, we actually proved this to be true. And I think it's really exciting because if you're listening to this podcast and there is something that you have been marinating on, maybe it is starting the new business, the new pivot, the new workout routine, the new diet, ending a relationship, starting a relationship, picking up a new hobby, making time for yourself, drawing boundaries, whatever it is. The headline here is that it is never too late and you are never too old. You are right on time. So, whatever you're telling yourself, excuse wise, scientifically, we have proven that literally it is never too late. You are never too old to start the thing, do the thing, or be the thing.
Wow. If I had a mic that I held in my hand, I'd drop it right now because that's definitely a mic drop moment. And Aaron, I have heard many things about, you're not your number, you're not your age, you're your but how you say it, you're not your age, you are your energy. That I mean, honestly, that should be a book title. Uh,
It's a
but
good
that
idea.
is so insightful and so absolutely true. Lately, I've had so many people say to me that maybe Mo, at your age, you should, slow down, not work so much, like all those things that are so stereotypical of somebody that is in their sixth decade of life. And I'm like, if you tell me that one more time, even though it's not them, it's just the combination of all. I mean, I tend to roll my eyes and stick my tongue out and say, oh, you haven't met me. However, that being said, such big insights there. And thank you for sharing that because that's really what is the biggest discovery. And then how you said exactly what I was hoping you would share is how do we apply that to, what you're saying is doesn't matter where you are in your life, it's choosing to move forward with this insight of your energy type and using energy as your fuel to fuel your, your purpose and your path
Yeah,
forward. So
that's right.
fantastic.
To
Tell
find your fuel to power your path. Absolutely.
That's brilliant. We hear so much about the concept of burnout, especially at executive leadership level, and with so many, high performers struggling with this today. Not only burnout, but whether it's energy depletion that, and or burnout. Um, there's so many myths around that about how do you manage your energy. I read so much that I think, is that really the best way you manage energy today? And of course, you've debunked that through your work. So I'd love for you to share one or a few of the most effective strategies on how all persons, no matter what they're doing with their professional career or their lives, can sustain peak energy levels.
Mm. Well, one of the biggest myths that are out there right now, if you open the Instagram app, which hopefully we are starting to spend a little less time on social media. I still struggle with my screen time personally. It's a love-hate relationship, but the reality is that with every scroll, we are paying attention more to what Instagram tells us than our intuition or our instincts. And the truth is, when you see everyone cold plunging and red light therapying and saunaing and supplementing and journaling and meditating and levitating and all these things, which are wonderful, it can really create a sense that we're never doing enough, that we're always behind, and that this optimal place of wellness is this never-ending failure, despite our best efforts. And so what was really, really interesting in our study that we found is that more effort does not actually equal more energy. Because if you think about it, effort and energy have an inverse relationship because effort's expensive. Effort is expensive. Every time that you like this morning, I just did my Orange Theory class and I, came home and cleaned the house and showed up for my Zoom calls and I'm on this call with you. It's 12:30 here locally, Mountain Standard Time in Park City, Utah. And and I can already feel my energy starting to dip down a little bit because I've been putting forth effort since 5 a.m. And there's a cost to that, right? And so, what we found in our study is that we think if we do all of the wellness things, all the Instagram influencer things, that we're going to have this peak performance, this perfect amount of energy. But the truth is that in our study, we found that people who did more than 32 energizing activities. Now, this is go for a walk, a cup of coffee, call your mom, journal, whatever you do to, recharge, to optimize your energy throughout the day. People who did more than 32 a week, so that's between 4 and 5 a day, 2 things happened. Number 1, their general energy levels actually decreased. So if they had a higher energy level, they reported it going down. And the second thing that happened is their life satisfaction score went down. So how present they felt, how joyful, how excited for the future, how successful, all these things, both happiness and energy goes down if you go beyond this baseline maintenance level of about 32 a week. So the truth is, when you think you have to be doing 15, 20, 25 things a day to have peak performance energy, the science shows it's just not true. I mean, 4 to 5 is a wonderful amount. And everyone has time for 4 to 5 energizing activities a day. Being present with your family, enjoying your cup of coffee, journaling, moving your body. I mean, that's 4 right there. You call a dear friend, boom. I mean, it's so much more doable than I think the internet leads us to believe. And so what's really important to understand is that more is not more. Now, when we looked at our study, there was a small subgroup of participants, and we called them the big energy beings because this group of people reported having two things. One, they reported having a generally higher personal battery level than everyone else in the study, which the question was very simple. Over the last 90 days, the highs, the lows of your life, good night's sleep, bad night's sleep, had your coffee, didn't have your coffee. If you're to average it all out on a scale from 1 to 7, 7 being peak energy, peak performance, optimal energy, 1 being close to burnout. Where are you? Now, 1 to 4 was considered lower energy, 5 to 7 was higher. Now, these individuals reported being in that 5 to 7 range. So we actually dove in deeper. You know, they had the same amount of issues as everybody else. They're dealing with grief and loss and financial worry and fiscal stress and normal human heaviness that we all deal with. And yet their energy levels were higher. Their life satisfaction scores were also higher. What were they doing that the rest of us weren't? And this was like the key insight. And what we found was the language that they used. The language that they used, Mo, was so much more aware about how their personal energy worked. They were more in alignment with their energy instinct, as we call it. They knew their fastest path to power and they adjusted their actions accordingly. Now, there's a ton of examples of the ways they've done that they did this, right? So, one of the things, for example, is that they mentioned the word boundaries 8 times more than people who had lower energy levels and lower life satisfaction scores. So when we talk about setting boundaries and defending boundaries, it can sound a little bit like a little negative, right? Like, I'm just going to say no, doesn't work for me. But what we found was it was actually, it wasn't selfish for them to hold the line, for to say no, to politely decline, to know what their bandwidth was. In fact, it allowed them to have a fuller, higher battery to show up in a way where they could be of better service at work, where they could be a more active listener at home, where they could be more present with friends, and where ultimately they were enjoying their life a lot more. So I think this idea of like self-care isn't selfish is kind of a buzzwordy Instagram phrase, but our science shows that truly the ones that enforced the boundaries, that aligned with being in flow, making decisions, playing, they use phrases like playing to my strengths, knowing where I shine, doubling down on what I'm already good at. These are the phrases that they use far more than the rest of the people in the study. And so the question is, do you know what powers you up the fastest? Do you know how your energy works? Do you know what comes instinctually to you? And how are you making alignment choices to get in flow with that? Right? Because there's also this element too of like energy optimization. It's not mastery, it's momentum. It's like golf or like yoga. You don't just conquer it and you're at the summit, the end. It's a constant pursuit, it's a practice, just like anything else in wellness or fitness. And so they use a lot of language of micro habits, everyday moments. They didn't just go to Bali, turn their phone off for 10 days, drink juice, go to a sweat lodge, and then that was the end. And they had great energy for 5 years. I mean, it was really an ongoing practice. And so what's really interesting is we were sort of able to pinpoint their fastest path to their energy instinct, to plugging in, tapping in to what naturally energizes them. This is really important because what comes instinctually to us is inexpensive. And if you think about, Mo, like when you are teaching a fitness class, when you're inspiring a group of professionals, I've seen you in action and you can be on your feet teaching classes, motivating for 4, 5, 6 hours. Now, technically, that should make you feel drained and exhausted. But I've seen you. You get off that stage or you finish the class and you're on fire, you are vibrating because that is you in alignment with what comes to you instinctively. Because what's instinctive is inexpensive. The more we plug into what makes us come alive, the more we're able to engineer effort and make it effortless, right? So this is the whole alignment assignment
Wow.
that we're chasing.
Wow. The more odd, incredible, incredible. And for those that are listening in, yes, you're with Erin King, and I know that all of you, including myself, are going to listen to this podcast again and again to pick up more of these insights. That was so fascinating, and it validates. I took your energy exam, and finding out my energy type validated for me being in alignment with what I love to do. And when I'm not in alignment, why that is. And saying no without feeling guilty. We're going to talk about that a bit. But it really does go back to the whole message at the beginning of this episode about when you're truly in alignment on your path, serving your mission, serving your purpose, then it does feel effortless. Yes, it comes with effort, but I loved how you say more effort doesn't equal more energy, but the right effort does equal the energy that serves us to the best of our ability. It's
Exactly.
fascinating, and I'm certain that you have a lot yet to share out of this research. And I can imagine that the stages you stand on, especially at some of these conferences, as you mentioned, that aren't naturally a high vibe, they must just be like, having to pick their jaws off the ground from the insights that you share with them. Because I'm awestruck by the insights that you're sharing. And yet, we in the fitness industry where I tend to spend most of my life and career, we always think it's always about energy, go 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 and more more more. But you're
Mhm.
helping us understand that that's not the case. It's the right efforts and how to find that balance or that energy management.
Mhm.
That's the key. So unbelievable. And I'm sure our listeners are going to ask, well, how do I learn more? How do I understand myself better? So that's probably a good segue to what I want to ask next, because you have had the opportunity to study 10,000 people and their uniquenesses. And you've also worked with the biggest brands and high achievers in the world and help them unlock what you call their big energy. But how, before you can optimize that, I guess we need to start with how do you learn about where you currently stand? So, can you tell us
Okay.
about the energy exam and what it measures and why somebody might want to take advantage of this opportunity to learn from you?
Yes. So there are a lot of personality tests out there. There's the Enneagram and Strengths Finder and Myers Briggs. And what makes this different is not only is it architected by PhD researchers that are much smarter than me, but it is designed to not only understand how you experience your energy, so what charges you, what drains you, what sustains you, who you're compatible with, but it also reveals insights about how the world perceives your vibe, which is a totally different side of the coin, right? Because I think oftentimes how we think we're coming across may not be how the world is perceiving our energy and our vibe. So this is what makes it different from a traditional personality test. Is it also talks a lot about how the world perceives your energy. It is a 5-minute exam and it is intentionally a little bit tricky. So each question is designed so that you kind of want to answer both, but you can't, right? So it's very, very accurate. High accuracy was really important in developing it. So as you go through, don't get frustrated because you're going to say, well, I want to be both of those things. That's what makes it so accurate is that we are really getting into the nitty gritty of how you are energetically programmed. So when you take the exam and you took it at Mo, which by the way, what was your energy type?
Oh, that's a great question. I wrote it in my
Were
um
you kinetic
the
or
third one along. Nope.
generative, synergistic,
Synergistic.
responsive, synergistic? Okay. So there's 5 types. So most synergistic, which means that her fastest path to energy, her scientific shortcut to powering up when she needs it the most on demand is connection. A sense of
Right
connection
with
with
other.
others or something bigger than yourself. That's why you're so involved with so many incredible causes because plugging into that bigger purpose, of course, everyone likes to feel connected. Everyone likes to have a bigger purpose. But for a synergistic energy type, it is 10x more important than the average bear. And so if you're ever feeling drained, it's because you are too far from a sense of connection with your mission, with the bigger why, or with others, right? Is that landing for you?
Thank you. Yes, 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 and yes. I've actually had to
Yes.
change the way I work this year in order to connect more with people, to keep myself at a level of performance based on my energy type.
Yeah, because I mean, I'm sure that pandemic is hard for everyone, but especially synergistics because working in a silo just drains the battery. They're not now, if you are a responsive energy type, they actually get energy from space. So the pandemic was kind of like their dream come true because they got to just have all the space they wanted, right? That's their So if you have a responsive energy type on your team, let's say, and they're being passive aggressive or they're low vibe, they're having cancerous comments in conversation. It's because everyone's too much in their world. They need space to process, marinate, recharge, and then come back into the game. Now, if you are a kinetic like I am and you're feeling low vibe, your fastest path to power is going to be any kind of challenge. If you have someone on your team that's a kinetic and they are low vibe, you would think, oh, well, they're low energy. Let's like give them some space to. No, 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 no. If you have a kinetic, you need to double down. You need to dig in and give them a way to compete or have a challenge or something that puts them out of their comfort zone. They are on cruise control and it is draining their battery. Okay. Now, if you have a rigorous energy type, they are allergic to chaos. Chaos drains them. Their fastest path to power is order. And then finally, you have generatives. And the generatives are the ones in your company and organization that are drained with too much process, rigidity, replicability. They're the ones that need to be able to create. They need a whiteboard. They need to be able to build anything from scratch. Just give them a blank canvas and boom, their battery is back up. So there's really fast paths to power that as if you're a leader or a team or a manager in your organization, they're just quick little levers you can pull to help energize individuals on your team when you don't have time to say, you need to go get 9 hours of sleep, drink a gallon of water, eat kale, and do a 90-minute workout. Well, if they don't have time for that before a big meeting, their fastest path to power is to tap into their energy instinct. And everyone has one. And so as you take the energy exam, it's a 5-minute exam. It's free to take. There are free results that are pretty comprehensive. But if you want to do the deep dive, you can use the code MO50, and MO50 will give them half off the big download, which goes really deep into not just your chargers and your drainers, but it also gives you a 5-step framework that you can use every single day to optimize your energy. So it's kind of who you are, how the world sees you, and then what you can do about it.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. And what an offer. So, just quickly, and we will post this with the podcast, tell us where we can get this free exam. And then the code again is Mo50. So
Mo50. Yep. And it's theenergyexam.com.
that's easy. Theenergyexam.com. Love
Yep.
it.
Yep.
Oh,
Yep.
so as you mentioned, I took it. I was fascinated, and it actually happily derailed my entire day, which was a weekend when I was working on other things, and I derailed it when I came across your exam because it took me down a path of some personal discovery and journaling, and I wrote an entire blog. That's where, there again, I was fascinated by your work, so built it into my guidebook that I gift everyone every year at the beginning of the year. And but what I was going to say, is it was so validated my type, which you again validated here today. But I found, as you mentioned, it illuminates not only your vibe, but your vibe, being your energy vibe, is a core part of your value. And
Hmm.
that realization, Erin, the way that you described it in the results and in the study was pivotal in elevating my confidence as a leader, and it gave me a really fresh perspective on how crucial it is to invest in my energy in a different way than, although I think I'm in good alignment, I believe I'm in good alignment most of the time. But there are times when I'm not, because I'm not those types that love the whiteboard and the detail. They are like, I'm so done with that. Whereas I have people on my team, as you were sharing the types, I thought, interesting, I have a member of my management team that all represent those energy types, how complementary we are, but also how it makes me think differently on how I can inspire them or influence them to do their best work.
Yeah.
So I've already got some new ideas just listening to you here today. Um, I do follow you. I subscribe to your weekly energy news to get my jolt at the beginning of every week. And I came across your recent blog, which I want to speak to now because, again, it was one that just triggered me to pick up some new techniques and reevaluate some of my bad habits. And the recent blog was called "Stop Being Available for Everything and Everyone." And you introduced the concept of energetic guardrails, not
Hmm.
just about saying no, but intentionally deciding who and what gets access to your energy. So I've already implemented one of those, which is say no and say nothing else. I always felt like I had to give a reason or an excuse why I was saying no. And I instantly found just this past week and a bit that I actually feel more in my power when I just
Mm,
said, no, I'm not, like, I'm not available, and left it at that. It put
mhm,
me in the boss seat, as you said. And I didn't get pushback. We then negotiated when it would be a good time.
mhm.
It was
Good for
powerful.
you.
So, why is it so crucial that we establish boundaries like energy guardrails? And
Mhm.
what are the key steps to constructing them in a way that will protect your energy without feeling whether it's guilty or
Yeah.
selfish? Do share.
Well, first of all, good job you, because someone that is a synergistic, because connection is what energizes you, it's especially hard for someone like you to create an energetic guardrail, which essentially is putting a boundary between it's essentially creating an intentional disconnect, which is why it's extra challenging for you over the other 4 energy types. So it's an extra big bravo, good job you, fist bump through the screen because it is really challenging for anyone. You know, we come from tribes where, you know, you wanted to be accepted by the group for survival. You know, you had to rely on those around you to, you know, approve you, protect you, defend you, feed you, be there for you. You know, we have a deep sense, programmed DNA survival level of belonging. We want to belong and be part of the tribe and the crew and the community. And so when we do intentionally isolate ourselves, even in micro moments like the one you just described, it can really put us out of our comfort zone. So I think what's really important to understand when it comes to what I learned from these big energy beings is that number one, they do what you just said. They don't feel the need to explain because no is a complete sentence. Now, I'm like you. I used to say no because, and then I would either exaggerate a reason and then I would get caught, right? Or, you know, I'm such an honest person that it never worked. I mean, I think I got busted on like I tried twice. It was like, okay, I'm not good at this. Um, so what I do when I say, "I would love to, but I can't. Thank you so much for the invite," is there's this pause afterward, right? And it feels like it's 5 years, but it's probably 2 or 3 seconds at the most. And so I used to have this urge to fill in that space just to keep talking until I could talk them out of being upset. Now what I do is I play elevator music in my head. So I go while I'm waiting for the silence because they will step up and fill it. The second thing that's interesting that you brought up in your story is that when we actually have the audacity to politely decline, to honor our energy, to enforce the guardrail, to decline and to shut our mouths and let the silence land. What's crazy is that oftentimes the response that we get is not the narrative that we spun in our minds. We've already played through and future time traveled to their anger, disappointment, and more than half the time they go, "Oh, okay, no problem." And you're like, "Oh gosh, so I'm just inventing all this." I'm inventing this negative response that's not actual right. And so we're creating these narratives that are not rooted in reality. And the more that we practice this, it's like a muscle, just like anything else, you know, as a fitness professional, like a muscle, it becomes easier. We get better. And ultimately, over time, it has a compounding effect on our overall health of our energy, on our overall personal battery. So now let's talk about the elephant in the room when it comes to declining and saying no. Because in life, if you think of I call them drainers, but if you think of drainers, there's really two categories. So think of it as an expense on your energy. So we have fixed drainers and we have discretionary drainers, okay? Now, your fixed drainers are the ones that are coming to mind when people are saying, "Okay, well I am dealing with death, grief, illness, I'm dealing with divorce, I'm dealing with a tough family member, you who I can't just leave, right? So there are certain drainers in our life that are fixed and that we do have to let time and therapy and whatever you believe in, God, the universe, Jesus, take the wheel. I mean, there are certain drainers that life is hard and they're just going to have to play out the way they're going to play out. Absolutely. And this is very important for some of the deeper, darker drainers, things like, you know, sexual abuse or verbal. I mean, there are things that this did happen to you, and that's an accountability that you are not responsible for, right? The problem is, on the other hand, we have discretionary drainers. And oftentimes we will frame those discretionary drainers as fixed, but they're not really fixed. There is an opportunity for us to control those controllables. Now, these are things like we talked about, guardrails. These are things like people pleasing. These are things like limiting beliefs. These are things like mindset left over from childhood where the authority figure told you that you weren't enough, you couldn't do it, you didn't have what it took. These are old stories we're telling ourselves. These are us having a fear of failure, fear of rejection. All of these different drainers are technically not fixed. They are discretionary, and they're called discretionary because they're at our discretion to do three things. Either number one, we're going to delegate it to somebody else because it's not really our problem, right? Number two, we're going to face it head on. We're going to deal with it. And dealing with the drainer means doing anything, literally anything, but ignoring it and hoping it will go away, right? And then number three, and this one is the most beautiful, if you can, if you are in a situation where you can just delete it. Can you delegate it, deal with it, or delete it? One of those three options is available to you for so many of the trainers in our lives that we carry as fixed trainers, but they're not. And what they're doing, Mo, is they're running in the background of our subconscious. Like when we have too many windows open on our phone that we aren't even using and our battery is getting drained, we have to close the windows because they are subconsciously, sneakily siphoning and stealing our precious resource, this asset that is finite, that is the way that we transact with the world. This is our currency, like our time or our money. It is everything. And every time that we choose to let discretionary drainers drain our battery and tell ourselves, well, nothing we can do about it, we are doing ourselves a disservice.
Wow. I actually, as you spoke about delegating, dealing with it head on, or deleting it, I actually can think of 3 people at this moment that I can put into each of those categories. And the realization that there are those fixed drainers in our life, and we just have to accept that. And in fact, now I realize if I can delegate, and I've gotten much better at dealing with it head on. It helps me sleep better at night, but it
Good.
does revitalize my energy when it's that monkey is off your shoulder. But I love the idea of giving yourself permission to delete it. I can think of many in my inbox at this time that I am going to, after this episode, simply delete.
Mhm.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
And
And it
that
can be,
gives me that space and energy to put towards those in my life that I would like to actually put more
mm,
intentional attention to or energy to. And those are some people in my life that, for the purposes of relationships, they're just there. And I want to be more present.
totally. And we can't always delete our toxic sister-in-law. Just
No.
hypothetically saying that maybe I have one of those, you know? So sometimes we have to just, it is what it is at some point, right? But there are also moments where I don't have to follow her on social media. I don't like there's micro and macro deletions. I mean, if you are in a career that is sucking the soul out of the marrow of the bones of your existence, we don't always have the choice to delete it, but is there a way that you can deal with it? Can you ask for a different role that's more in alignment with your energy or your skill sets? Are there boundaries you can draw with toxic coworkers? Like, can you make micro adjustments to deal with a draining situation? If you can delete it and walk away and quit the job and find something that's better aligned, great. But whatever level you're comfortable with, the only headline here is when you're having somatic signals will not be shushed. These are things like people call them the Sunday scaries, right? So you're having a physical response. Your shoulders are up in your ears. You're biting your nails. You're playing with your fidgeting. You're sighing. Your physicality gets smaller. These are somatic signals that you are in energetic misalignment. And so the question is, what are you going to do about it? How are you going to find your fuel to power your path? Because 9 times out of 10, there is a choice you can make to just reduce that drain on your energetic existence, even just a little bit, even just 1% can feel like a brand new grasp on life. It can help you unlock that peak performance because here's the thing, there's a high cost to low energy. There is a very high cost to low energy. I have a client that we've literally done studies where when the vibe, they call it morale or culture, whatever the corporate phrase is, but ultimately it's the vibe. It's essentially a multi-billion dollar vibe check. And when the vibe is off at an organization, there is nothing more expensive than a low energy enterprise. It affects productivity, it affects creativity, collaboration, profitability, it affects everything. And so the reality is if you are in a situation that is low vibe at home or at work or at the gym in your friend group, the truth is that our study found the fastest way that you can raise the energy around you is to start by raising it right here within you. And the truth is, we all know that energy is contagious. We've heard that for years. But what's kind of cool is our research found exactly how contagious. I think we're the first study to prove this, but we found that 68% of people, so about 7 out of 10, when they were around someone whose energy they quote unquote admired, that they actually moved from a low vibe state, that 1 to 4 on the scale, up to a 5 to 7 just by being around someone who was shining with an energy they admired. So if you are even in a household where it's low vibe, or you're on a team that's low vibe, wherever you are, it really starts with you. I mean, there is a huge accountability opportunity for us to take responsibility for the energy we bring into every room and every Zoom. And so when you think about it like that, it's really empowering. You realize that you do have the power. Yeah, okay, 3 out of 10 people are still going to be sourpusses and curmudgeons, and they're not going to buy what you're selling, and they're not going to green light your initiative, and they're going to, interrupt you and take your idea down. Sure. But 7 out of 10 of them, when you are shining at your best, won't be able to resist you. They won't. And so what's kind of interesting when you think about this, you know, optimizing your energy is not about matching my energy level or mimicking Mo's energy style. What it is about uncovering your energetic essence when you are at your best and defending it unapologetically. It is about preserving it, pre-charging it before you go into high stakes situations, and ultimately knowing your fastest path to power and prioritizing it. Like that is the only quote unquote secret of these big energy beings of the study is they prioritized managing their energy more like they manage their time or their money. It wasn't a nice to have, it was a need to have.
Need to have. Wow.
Yeah.
So rich. I did say to all of you, this was a special episode. Now you know why. So many incredible golden nuggets. And I'd love to stay on this subject even longer, but I know that you've enriched us already, Erin. But I do want to jump to a quick question before we wrap up today's show. We met at CanFit Pro and at a conference prior to that. And since then, you have stepped on to and skyrocketed onto some of the world's biggest stages as a very sought after speaker. And one of your many gifts of many is your ability to craft and deliver powerful stories and captivate the audiences and really create the demand for your message as you have done here today. Can you just share with us maybe your top tip or tips for packaging a personal story and what truly resonates and inspires action from those that would be there in your audience?
Yeah. So when it comes to storytelling, and Mo, you're a beautiful storyteller as well. I've seen you speak many times as well. I think you're an absolute dynamo powerhouse. You really stand in service of your audience. It's so obvious. Energy never lies, and we can feel when a speaker is standing in service of the audience or themselves. And you are certainly standing in service of your audiences. So, um, I would say when it comes to personal stories, a lot of times people ask me, where did all this energy work come from? Like, why did you do all this? And so, if I was telling a less than compelling personal story, I would say something along the lines of, well, I had been facing some burnout and I had felt stressed out. And so I really wanted to get to the bottom of it. So we kind of start that way. We kind of just start giving a high level flyover. The biggest thing you can do to fix your personal story is to hone in and identify the moment everything changed for you. In Hollywood movies and in media, they call this in media res, in the middle of the action. And so you begin your story in the middle of the explosion in your life, the explosion in your world, and then you back up. So it's not beginning, middle, end. It's explosion, beginning, middle, end. And so the explosion for me, the way I tell that story is if someone says, "Why did you do this?" I say, "Well, it all started when I woke up in the ER in the hospital, and I thought I was dead." So that's how I start the story, because now people are, like, leaning in because 'cause they're saying, "Wait, what? You were in the why are you in the hospital? What did you almost die?" Like, obviously you didn't, because 'cause you're here telling the story. Their mind starts to wanna put it together. So you want to have your opening sentence never say, "Let me tell you a story." Just tell the damn story. So you just open by saying, "It all started when I was in the hospital, and I woke up, and I looked at my husband, and I thought he was gonna tell me that I had a heart attack. It turns out it was just a panic attack," which feels very similar, but apparently has a much higher survival rate. And you just start the story. And then now, as soon as you've done your explosion, the next place you wanna go in your story is you wanna bring them into the story. You want them to see themselves in the hospital room having the panic attack. Whatever was your moment of where it all changed for you want them to see themselves in that story. So then you kick it back to them and say, if you've ever been someone who has felt like you've had physical symptoms you were ignoring, maybe you had trouble breathing, maybe you just felt like you couldn't handle it all, maybe you felt like you were treading water, a feeling of drowning. Now, everyone's nodding their head who's ever had that feeling. And you say, so if you've ever had that feeling, you know what that is like. Well, now they're not listening to your story. Now they're in their own story. They are walking it with you. So when you can just reframe that beginning to start with the explosion, start with the moment everything changed, bring them in, and then tell your story. So for me, it all started 10 years before that. I tell my money story growing up. Growing up, we had lots of love, we had lots of warmth, everyone was very welcoming, but when topic of money came up, the vibe changed. Voices raised, things got stressful, and I remember thinking to myself, I don't like money. Money is anger, money is sadness, money ruins the party. And so for me, my motivation being an entrepreneur was I always just wanted that moment in the house not to happen. That's what started me on my journey to starting companies. I then go through the story, which we don't have time for today. I'll tell you the short version, but going through these companies, and I tell about the highs and the lows and the striving and the stressing. And ultimately the headline is this: I wasn't managing my energy and I paid the price for it physically. And then the phrase is, and so this is why this work is so important to me, because I wanted to solve the problem for myself, because I was afraid if it happened to me one more time, I wouldn't survive another episode. So explaining the purpose, explaining your why. Why does this matter? This is why. Did the study, interviewed 10,000 people, put my life on pause, created all this work, is because I'm passionate about it not happening to me again, and not happening to people that I love, and happening to people that it doesn't have to happen to. This is my mission. I want to help the world to realize that what they have inside of them is so precious and it must be protected.
Mm, wow. For those who would like to learn more about how to be a good storyteller or speaker, do you offer workshops, or what is it that you're offering as your services and training these days?
Yeah, I partnered with a really good friend of mine. Her name is Jen Gottlieb, and she has a beautiful program called Stage Leaders, which I will be speaking at her event. I think it's May 31st, in Orlando, Florida, in the U.S. But she also has some virtual programs that I kind of help coach. I do some guest speaking, guest training. So there's a lot of people that teach speaking and storytelling. Um, I have been asked to help with a lot of those programs over the years, but hers is the most closely aligned. If I was to kind of start from scratch and build my own, I really identify with her approach to serving audiences, structuring stories, and really creating a talk that moves people for the right reasons. So I chose to align with her on her Stage Leaders program. She's fantastic. Give her a check out on Instagram. And yeah, I'm doing 48 keynotes a year right now. So when I slow down, I might create my own program. But for right now, it's helpful to kind of divide and conquer, knowing that I trust and believe in the way Jen approaches it. So
Oh my goodness. And 48 keynotes this year.
yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Well, there
yep,
you go.
yeah,
That says it all about
yeah.
your energy vibe, my friend. We're going to wrap up today's episode, although I know that you could spend the rest of your day with this incredible woman, Erin King. But to honor Erin's time and your time. We're going to wrap up with just a recognition that this year's International Women's Day theme is all about inspiring inclusion and creating a world where every woman feels valued, empowered, and seen. This is one of the reasons I invited Erin to be on the show for this special episode this month. Erin, you've been quoted as "Your energy is your edge." That is one of your quotes. It goes on to say, the more we invest in lifting each other up, the brighter
Mm.
we all shine. And this was inspired by your philosophy on energy and empowerment. So, as we approach this year's International Women's Day theme, my friends, focusing on advancing women's rights and empowerment is something I invite you all to do. And I just love you to close today's show. I will close it with one final comment. But, Erin, can you share your thoughts on how we can all elevate one another? What would be you know, your nugget for how we can
Yeah.
elevate others so that we can help to create a brighter and more inclusive future?
Yep. Yep. Beautiful question, Mo. Thank you so much. This is obviously something that is near and dear to my heart. And I really believe that most women, almost all women, are typically, whether they know it or not, playing the game of life on one of two teams. And they're wearing one of two jerseys. They're either playing the game of life on Team Abundance, where my win is your win is her win, and there is infinite, endless opportunity for winning, or sadly, they're playing on Team Scarcity. And Team Scarcity says her win is somehow taking from my win. And I believe that every single time that you put on that team abundance jersey and that you are like, and I'm not to say that I just did that, but I was my friend Jen. She has a wonderful program. It doesn't have to be my win, it can be our win. I think that that team abundance jersey and really asking yourself which one you're wearing, whether it's bringing people into the room, bringing them up with you. How many times are you mentioning your girlfriend's names when they're not in the room? When someone's asking for opportunities, are you championing them? Knowing that every time that you are elevating them, you are elevating us collectively is a core belief that I try to model as best I can every single day. So just ask yourself, when you see the women in your life winning, are you excited? Or are you threatened? Are you feeling abundant? Are you cheering them on, saying, good job, her, now let's go me? Or are you saying, oh, why not me? Pick the right team and play on it as hard as you can.
Wow. We're going to leave it right there. My friends, until next time, we encourage you to put on your abundant shirt, but also keep moving yourself forward. Thank you so much, Erin. You are my favorite person in the world. You
Oh,
are a big deal. I am so grateful for you, for all your sharing today. And until we meet somewhere again, all the best to you for this year. And again, thank you. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in to this episode. I know your cup is full, full, full with much gratitude for this incredible share today. Thanks. Bye for now.